Hey, what's up, y'all? Sita Nabuya here, and in this video is actually going to be part two of a video series where we go over the intro to multifamily. If you missed the first video, please go check that out. It's going to be talking about just kind of what multifamily is overall, and also it's going to give some of the benefits. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about the different types and the different niches in multifamily. So just kind of how we classify, and it allows you to get a little more clarity on what type of property you're looking at. So if you're very interested in learning this or learning more about multifamily, please stick around. And if you get any value from this video, please go ahead and like and also subscribe for more content. All right, let's get into it. All right, now let's talk about the different types of multifamily properties. So one is going to be garden style. So garden style is going to be more of the outdoor suburban type apartment complexes, usually multiple buildings. And the way to think about it is like the tenant walks out of their door and they're outside. So usually like breezeways, and you may have like between 4 to 8 units per building. Typically goes up to about 3, maybe 4 stories, just kind of really spread out. And that's going to be most of your suburban. Most investors, smaller investors that do multifamily, are going to focus mostly on garden style apartments. Next is going to be mid-rise. So mid-rise may go up to about 4, maybe 5, up to 12 stories. So they're going to be a little larger than garden style, more densely populated. They're also going to have more amenities than your typical garden style property. And those can be like in between the urban and suburban type areas. So those are going to be a little lower cap rates, higher value, higher property class than garden style. And then finally, you have high rise. So high rise is going to be from about 12 stories all the way up. So think about like your actually urban core properties, usually very luxury, high end, high priced, premium rents, premium amenities, super nice gym, fitness center, resort style pool. They're going to be in very densely populated areas, and they're going to be very pricey, and typically are going to fall to institutional type investors, very large investors that can just put a lot of money into deals. So those are going to be your 3 different types of properties. Then we're going to get into the actual niches. So niches are going to be kind of your subcomponents of multifamily. So they have some kind of specialization, typically have like extra regulation associated with them. So the first niche I'm going to get into is affordable housing. Affordable housing by definition is when a tenant pays 30% or less of their gross income on housing, and that's including utilities. So for instance, if someone makes $100,000 annually, that's their gross pay, then their annual housing expense, including utilities, should be $30,000 or less. So affordable housing typically has some kind of government regulation or subsidy that backs it. One of the more commonly known programs is the Section 8 program, which is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And in that program, the government allocates vouchers to low-income tenants that they can take to certain places, certain apartments or rental houses that accept them, and they can use that voucher to pay their rent. In those cases, the government subsidizes a portion or all of the tenant's rent, which means they don't have to come out of pocket with as much as somebody that's living in a market rate unit. The other less known option is going to be Section 42, which is the low income housing tax credit. With the low income housing tax credit, the development of the property or redevelopment of the property itself is going to be subsidized by the tax credits. And beyond that, there's not necessarily going to be a government subsidy to the rents. So a tenant may be paying the full rent on the property, but because the property was subsidized by the LIHTC credit, the rents are going to be capped based on the area median income. So it may be 30%, 50%, or 80%, whatever percentage of the area median income, that property by law needs to cater their rents to that particular demographic. Now, I could do an entire video on affordable housing and more than likely will. So please leave in the comments if you have any particular questions or any thoughts on affordable housing. I can talk about that when I create a video for it. But one thing I did want to mention is there's often a stigma with affordable housing. People think that you're always investing in the hood, you're investing into low quality tenants. There's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of regulation, and there's definitely some truth to a lot of that, but there's a lot of benefits to affordable housing. As long as you know how to operate, know how to screen right, and you can deal with all the government regulation and compliance, affordable housing is a great asset class that you can get into that can become lucrative while at the same time do a lot of good for the community to battle gentrification. Some of the benefits of affordable housing are decreased competition. A lot of people don't want to deal with the compliance that comes with affordable housing and the regulation. You're going to eliminate a lot of competition by doing affordable housing. 2, you get cheap access to capital. So you can get a lot of grants, you can get a lot of mission-based equity, mission-based debt that can reduce the amount of cost associated with financing a deal. There's a huge benefit, and you can make deals look very good numbers wise by being able to pull in different financing sources. And three, they're always in demand. It doesn't matter what the market is. We can be in the middle of recession. Even during the great financial crisis of 2008, affordable housing stayed very stable, and you're always going to have demand for it. And right now we're in a national affordable housing crisis, so that demand is not going anywhere. Some of the cons of affordable housing are going to be, of course, the regulation, having to deal with compliance, having to wait on the government can make it very difficult for a deal to work, or just make it forever before you're able to close on a deal. Two, you're having to deal with more challenges. There, a lot of times you will have, just a clean cut, not too many headaches type of property. But when you're dealing with affordable housing, in certain cases, there may be certain needs of your tenant base that you wouldn't have to deal with in a market rate deal. So you just have to be mindful of that. Three, it can be very complex making a deal work. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different financing sources for affordable housing that can make a deal work for you, but having to pull all those financing sources together can be very difficult and cumbersome. So you have to be very sophisticated in how you structure deals. Lastly, there's just fewer deals available that are affordable already. And if you want to create affordable housing without taking a property that's already subsidized, that itself can be a very challenging and daunting task. So the next niche I'm going to talk about is student housing. And of course, that's housing that's strategically located near universities, and they're going to cater to college students. A lot of times, the leases in student housing are going to be based on the academic year, and they are also going to have leases based on the bedroom as opposed to the whole unit. And you're also going to have amenities that cater to a student base. So think like study rooms, nicer fitness centers, and even access to campus transportation might be amenities at a student housing property. Some of the pros is that student housing is going to be stable because you consistently have an influx of students that are provided by the university. Whether or not you have a strategic contract with university, you're always going to have demand for the students that attend that university semester in and semester out. Also, a lot of times you'll be able to typically get premium rents in student housing. A lot of students are already taking out loans for tuition. Those can be used to cover their housing, or they may have parents that help subsidizing their costs, or they have scholarships that are really going to help with them being able to afford a premium rent. Also, you have more predictable lease cycles. Because you can follow the academic calendar, you can tell when you're going to have the highest demand in the fall and the spring semesters, and then lighter demand in the summer months. Now, that same pro can also be seen as a con. So you're going to have seasonal demand, like I said, in the summer months when you have people moving out or there are not as many students on campus. So you have to be able to manage that seasonal demand and make sure that you're still having good revenue in those off months. Two, you're going to have more increased turnover, and with that, higher maintenance costs. So students at most, a lot of times, are going to be in college 4 to 5, maybe 6 years. And most of the time, they're not going to stay in the same apartment every single year. So for that reason, you're just going to have more turnover semester in and semester out, or year in and year out, as students matriculate and move on to other properties or move out of school altogether. Another con is, just like affordable housing, you may have increased regulation when dealing with student housing, and you're at the mercy of the school a lot of times. So if school starts to suffer, their enrollment suffers, then that's going to have a hit on your demand and your vacancy. The last niche I'm going to talk about is senior housing. So of course, this is going to be housing that is restricted to and geared towards elderly folks. So a lot of times they may have some kind of supportive service, and that level of service can vary from independent living, where it's just older people and they're kind of on their own, to assisted living and memory care facilities. And a lot of times you'll have healthcare services integrated into the operations of the property. Some of the pros of senior living is, for one, especially right now, there's growing demand for senior living because of the aging baby boomer population. Another pro is that you're going to typically have pretty stable revenue because old folks tend to stay in place and they just aren't as transient as the younger population. Lastly, the healthcare aspect of it, if you include that, or if you have a property that has the healthcare integrated in, that aspect can make your property more attractive to seniors than maybe just a regular apartment complex where they could also live. Some of the downsides of senior living is, one, just the added operational cost and complexity when dealing with healthcare services or other supportive services that are integrated into the property. Two, you also have to deal with the generational shifts, and you may lose demand as one population ages or passes away and the next population is coming up. They may not have the same numbers that allows you to have high demand as, say, the baby boom population. Three, you also have to deal with regulations similar to student housing or affordable housing. There's just an added layer of regulations you have to deal with when providing senior housing. All right. Thank you for making it through this video. To recap, we covered the different property types and the different niches in multifamily. If you want to learn more about a particular niche, please let me know in the comments and I can do a video where I dive a little deeper into it. But for now, I encourage you to check out the next video in the series. This will be the final video where I go over step-by-step process of how to actually acquire a multifamily property. So see you later in the next video. Thank you.